We saw a lantern glow from inside a tree trunk. First, none of us spoke. The forest had gone too quiet for talking. Our headlamps cut narrow tunnels through the fog drifting between the trees, but the lantern's glow came from somewhere deeper in the dark. A warm, steady orange light bleeding from a hollow split in the bark of a massive cedar about 30 yards ahead. It didn't flicker like fire. Pulsed, slowly, like something breathing. "Tell me you see that," Evan said. "I see it," I said. Marla didn't answer. She stood behind us on the trail, the radio clipped to her chest crackling faintly with static from the search channel. We'd been out for 5 hours looking for the missing backpacker. Last ping from his phone somewhere in this stretch of old forest. But nothing about the situation had prepared us for this. Lanterns didn't appear inside trees. And no one had been out here long enough to put one there. The cedar was enormous, easily 10 feet across, its trunk twisted with age and covered in moss that drank the fog. The light came from a vertical seam in the bark where the wood had split open like a mouth. The glow leaked out of it in soft, breathing waves. Bright, dim, bright again. Evan took a step forward. "Don't," Marla said quickly. He stopped. "Why?" "I don't know," she said. "I just—" She trailed off. The forest pressed in around us. Even the wind had stopped. No rustling leaves. No insects. No distant creak. The silence felt layered, like the woods were holding their breath. Evan adjusted the strap of his pack. "Could be a camper," he said. "Someone sheltering in there." "In a tree?" I asked. "People do weird things when they're lost." He wasn't wrong. Still, none of us moved. The lantern pulsed again. And for a moment, just a moment, the light brightened enough that something shifted behind the split bark. Not movement, depth, as if the inside of the tree wasn't wood at all, but space. "Did you see that?" I whispered. Marla nodded slowly. "Yeah." The glow dimmed, then brightened, then dimmed again. Felt deliberate now. Not random breathing. Not wind feeding a flame. More like observation. The lantern's light slowly grew brighter. And stopped, right as Evan took another step forward. He froze. "You guys notice that?" he said. "The timing?" I asked. "Yeah." The glow dimmed again. Evan stepped back. Instantly the lantern brightened. We all stared at it. None of us spoke. Then Marla whispered, "It's reacting." The radio on her chest popped softly with static. The light inside the tree pulsed faster. Evan turned slowly toward her. "Turn the radio off." She clicked the switch. Silence returned. The lantern dimmed again, and the forest shifted. It was subtle, but the fog between the trees seemed to lean closer. Branches creaked softly above us, though no wind moved them. The woods were listening. Evan swallowed. "Okay," he said quietly. "That's enough weird for one night." But none of us started walking back. Because the glow inside the cedar was changing. The light was moving now. Not flickering. Moving. Deeper into the trunk. Then closer again. Like someone pacing with a lantern down a narrow hallway. Except the hallway was inside the tree. Marla's voice was barely audible. "That's not possible." The bark split widened slightly. Not breaking. Opening. The seam stretched downward another few inches with a wet, fibrous sound like roots pulling through soil. The lantern glow spilled brighter across the forest floor. And we saw inside. It wasn't hollow wood. It was a tunnel. Smooth and dark, stretching downward at an angle deeper than the trunk should allow. And hanging in the air within it. The lantern. No hand holding it. No hook. Just floating. The flame inside burned steady and silent. Evan whispered, "Okay. That's—" The lantern shifted. Turned. Not like it was swinging. Like it had looked at us. The flame brightened sharply. And the forest answered. Somewhere far off in the trees. A branch snapped. Then another. Then another. Not random. Approaching. Marla grabbed Evan's sleeve. "We need to leave." But he wasn't looking at the woods. He was staring at the tunnel. "Do you hear that?" he said softly. I strained my ears. At first there was nothing. Then, footsteps. But not from outside. From inside the tree. Slow. Heavy. Walking up the tunnel toward the lantern. Toward us. The glow began to retreat deeper into the trunk again, backing away like it was making space. Inviting. The footsteps kept coming. Thud. Pause. Thud. The sound of something enormous walking in a place far too small for it. Marla stepped back. Back up. Now. But Evan didn't move. Evan, I said sharply. His face looked pale in the headlamp beam. You guys, smell that? The air had changed. The cold forest scent of pine and wet soil had been replaced by something older. Damp earth, rotting leaves, and something metallic, like rusted iron. The lantern dimmed, then flared brightly again, and something moved in the darkness behind it. Not a body, not a shape, more like absence. A deeper black pushing against the edges of the tunnel. The footsteps stopped. Right behind the lantern. Evan leaned forward slightly. Hello! The lantern flickered once, then tilted toward him. Marla grabbed his arm. Don't! But he stepped closer. And the lantern responded instantly. It floated forward inside the tunnel. Just a few inches. Then stopped. Waiting. Evan took another step. The lantern drifted deeper. Step. Drift. Step. Drift. Like a guide leading someone into a cave. My stomach dropped. Evan, I said, it's bait. But he wasn't listening. His eyes were locked on the light. I think it's showing us something. The forest creaked again behind us. Branches shifting. Trees leaning. Watching. Marla whispered, look at the ground. I lowered my headlamp and saw them. Footprints. Hundreds of them. Pressed into the soil around the cedar. Boot prints. Bare feet. Animal tracks. All leading toward the split trunk. None leading away. My throat went dry. Evan, I said quietly. He didn't turn. He was standing right at the opening now. The lantern hovered 10 feet down the tunnel. Waiting. The darkness behind it shifted again. And for the first time, it leaned forward. Just enough for the lantern's glow to outline it. Not a face. Not exactly. But something tall enough that its head brushed the inside of the trunk. Something with too many joints bending the wrong direction. Something that had been waiting in that tunnel for a very long time. The lantern brightened, and Evan stepped inside the tree. The bark seemed closed immediately behind him. Not snapping shut. Growing. Fibers knitting together like flesh healing. The glow vanished. The forest exhaled. The wind returned suddenly, rattling branches and shaking fog loose from the canopy. Marla and I stood frozen. The cedar looked normal again. Solid. Unbroken. No seam. No tunnel. No light. Just bark. We didn't say anything for a long time. Finally Marla raised the radio. Her voice shook. Command, this is Team 3. We've lost one of our own. Possible. The radio crackled loudly. A burst of static flooded the channel. Then a voice came through. Soft, calm, and familiar. Evan's voice. Hey guys, it said. The signal sounded close. Too close. Don't worry, the voice continued. There's a lantern in here. Marla and I slowly turned back toward the cedar. Because through the bark, a warm orange glow had started to appear again. And this time, it was pulsing. Like a heartbeat, trying to get out. Something kept repeating our last words back to us, slightly distorted. At first it sounded like a normal echo. We were moving through a narrow ravine where the trees leaned inward and the fog sat low between the trunks like trapped breath. Sound carried strangely there. Every snapped twig bounced off the rock walls and returned softened. But echoes don't wait. And they don't answer. Did you hear that? Lucas asked. A second later, the forest replied. Hear that? The voice was stretched thin, like it had traveled through water. I stopped walking. My headlamp beam slid across the fog and caught the drifting shapes of spruce branches hanging over the ravine. That's just the canyon, I said. The canyon. Lucas turned slowly. You hear that delay? We both listened. The forest was quiet again. Too quiet. No insects. No wind. Even the distant creek we'd followed earlier had faded into a dull hush. Then Sarah's radio crackled softly against her vest. Command, this is Ridge Team 2, she said into the mic. We're checking the southern drainage. Her voice echoed faintly between the trees. But the thing that answered didn't come from the ravine walls. Southern drainage. The reply came from somewhere deeper in the woods. Lucas frowned. That's not right. Sarah lowered the radio slowly. No, she said. It isn't. The fog shifted around our legs as we moved again. Our headlamps carved pale tunnels through the gray, the beams dying after 20 feet like the forest was swallowing them. We'd been sent out to find a missing backpacker, a college kid who'd wandered off trail 2 nights ago, but the map said we were miles from where he'd last been seen. Still, something had drawn us into that ravine, and now it felt like something else knew we were there. Lucas stepped over a fallen branch. Let's keep moving, he said quietly. Keep moving. The voice repeated it. Closer now. The distortion was subtle, the pitch slightly wrong, like someone trying to imitate speech after hearing it only once. Sarah stopped walking. That didn't bounce, she whispered. Lucas shook his head. No. We all turned slowly toward the trees uphill from the ravine. Nothing moved, just fog slipping between the trunks. Sarah raised her voice slightly. Hello. The forest waited. Then, hello. The reply came from behind us. Lucas spun around. Who's there? The echo didn't come this time. Instead, the forest answered differently. Who's there? The words dragged, stretched into a breathy rasp. Something creaked high above us. Branches shifting. Not with wind, with weight. Sarah whispered, It's moving. Lucas's headlamp beam climbed the trees, catching bark slick with moisture and long strands of moss swaying gently. Nothing else. But the silence felt layered now, like something was standing just outside the reach of the light. Listening, we started walking again, faster this time. Our boots crunched softly over gravel and damp leaves. Let's not talk, Lucas muttered. Not talk, the forest replied immediately. Sarah swore under her breath. Lucas stopped. That was instant. No delay, no echo, just repetition. The fog thickened as we moved deeper into the ravine. The trees leaned closer together until the canopy above formed a dark tunnel. Our breathing sounded too loud. Every small noise seemed to hang in the air longer than it should. Lucas whispered, Maybe it's another team. Another team. The voice sounded clearer now, almost confident. Sarah shook her head. No one else is assigned this sector. This sector. Something cracked somewhere in the fog uphill. A branch snapping under pressure. Lucas aimed his headlamp toward the sound. The beam hit only missed. Then the voice came again. Not repeating. Speaking. Lucas. All 3 of us froze. Lucas's breath caught. You hear that? Sarah nodded slowly. The voice came again, softer. Lucas. It sounded almost right. But the syllables bent strangely, like they were being shaped by something unfamiliar with human mouths. Lucas whispered, Who said that? The forest replied instantly. Who said that? But then it added something else. Don't answer. Sarah's face drained of color. I didn't say that. Neither had I. Lucas's headlamp trembled slightly as he swept the beam through the fog. Okay, he said quietly. We're leaving. We're leaving. The voice followed. But now there were 2 of them. One behind us, one somewhere above. Their tones overlapped slightly, like reflections in a warped mirror. Sarah grabbed my sleeve. Do you hear how it's splitting? She was right. Each repetition came from a different direction now. Branches, the ground, the trees ahead. Like the forest itself had learned how to speak. Lucas started walking faster. Don't engage it, he said. Engage it. Don't engage. The voices corrected each other, testing variations. Sarah whispered. It's learning. The ravine narrowed suddenly, forcing us between two massive boulders where the fog pooled thickest. Our lights struggled to penetrate it. Lucas stepped through first, then Sarah. I followed. And that's when the forest spoke again. Not repeating, remembering. Lucas, you said we should turn back. Lucas stopped cold. He turned slowly. I said that hours ago. The voice continued. You said, the woods feel wrong. Sarah's breathing quickened. That was before we even entered this ravine. The fog stirred around us. Something moving inside it. Slow, measured. Then the voice whispered something none of us had spoken. You thought something was watching. My stomach turned cold. Because that was true. I had thought that, but I hadn't said it. The forest repeated it again, clearer. Watching. Lucas stepped backward. We're done here. Done here. The fog shifted. And from somewhere behind us came the sound of footsteps. Boots. Walking toward the ravine. Sarah turned quickly. Is that another team? The footsteps stopped. Then a voice called out through the fog. Hey! Lucas's headlamp snapped toward the sound. Hello! The fog parted slightly, and a figure stepped into the light, wearing search and rescue gear. Headlamp, orange vest. Lucas stared, because the man standing there was him. Same jacket, same face, same expression. The copy tilted its head slightly, and smiled too slowly. Behind us, something else stepped through the fog. I turned. Another figure emerged. Sarah. But the real Sarah was still beside me. Her double raised a hand and spoke. Let's keep moving. The forest echoed it. Keep moving. Lucas whispered. Don't look at them. Too late. The copies were multiplying now. Shapes forming between the trees. Our voices drifting from every direction. Fragments of our conversations. Our thoughts. Our fears. Don't answer. The woods feel wrong. Something watching. Sarah's double stepped closer. Command. This is Ridge Team 2. The real Sarah's radio crackled. Then her own voice came through the speaker. Command. This is Ridge Team 2. But she hadn't touched the mic. Lucas grabbed my arm. Run. We bolted down the ravine. Branches whipped past us. Fog swallowed the lights behind. But the voices followed. Dozens now. Repeating everything we said. Everything we hadn't. Until finally, they stopped. The forest fell silent again. We didn't slow until the ravine opened into the gravel service road miles below. Lucas bent over, breathing hard. Sarah stared back into the fog-choked woods. The silence felt heavier now. Satisfied, Lucas looked at us both. Head count, he said. 3. I said. 3, Sarah agreed. Lucas nodded slowly, but something in his expression didn't settle. What? Sarah asked. Lucas hesitated, then said quietly, when we started this search. He looked between us. There were only 2 of us. Neither of us spoke. Behind us, far up in the forest, something repeated softly through the fog. 3 of us.